Hello, everybody. It's me, Wolfgang.
And it's me, Danny.
We have a new episode of this podcast called Hello, I'm Listening.
Any new listeners are probably turning it off already.
Like, does he have a stroke or?
Like, I'm not going to listen to these people talk.
Oh.
No, Mrs. Butterscotch is no longer welcome.
Oh, hello, my dears.
She's no longer welcome.
I'm so happy to be a new co-host.
You realize that this episode might actually draw in some new people, and Mrs. Butterscotch is going to drive them away.
She's an icon, Danielle.
She's going to drive them away.
She's the most beloved character of this show.
Said no one.
Danielle, I've got multiple emails and like physical mails from people.
Physical mails, like letters.
Yeah, letters. Saying that Mrs. Butterscotch is
Butterscotch fan mail.
No, Mrs. Butterscotch is done for now. I just want to let you people know, if you want to support us, you can do that on our Patreon. We have a Patreon and there are 2 tiers. And
if you want to hear more Mrs. Butterscotch,
then don't go to our Patreon. No, but we would really appreciate. And if you're new here, welcome. We hope you are entertained a little bit at least. And I don't want to do more of that stuff now because, Great. Let's get into the episode. I think it's going to be a longer one. And as you can see from the title, we're talking about the movie phenomenon Barbenheimer.
Barbenheimer,
now playing in your local theater. So we watched Barbie and then we watched Oppenheimer. We did not do that on one day. We did not do it consecutively, like one after the other. But yeah. So since Barbenheimer, Barben is the first movie.
Barben. Let's talk about Barben.
And then Heimer. So we thought we'd talk about Barbie first and then Oppenheimer.
Yes.
Let's talk about Barbie.
Barbie! So I have to say, I'm obsessed with this movie, first of all. But going into it, I think they did such a good job with the trailer because there's such an important message in the movie, which we'll get into, but they did not at all at least the original trailer. I don't know how many, I haven't seen all the trailers for it, but the original teaser trailer for it, there was no giveaway to that. It was purely, look, it's Barbie. It's a funny comedy of Barbie in the real world. And there was no real indication, which I liked. There was no real indication of the kind of message that they were trying to get across in the movie.
I disagree. There was one.
Okay, but if there was, it was small. It wasn't like...
It was a Greta Gerwig, the director.
Yeah.
It was a giveaway.
But I feel like that made so many more people go see it because if that would have been a central theme in the trailer, a lot of people would not have gone to see it.
Yeah, a lot of people, yeah.
Hashtag men. And
hashtag toxic man. Toxic.
And I think it's such an important movie.
Yeah. No, it is.
For people to see.
It is. So Greta Gerwig
is amazing.
The writer and the director of that movie. And I mean, she did Little Women. 2019 Lady Bird was amazing moving. She co-wrote it actually with Noah Baumbach, which is an amazing director and also writer, known from movies like White Noise on Netflix, Marriage Story, also I think Netflix, The Squid and the Whale, and other movies. And I think co-writing a movie like that with a male perspective worked pretty well, I think. Yeah. And also Noah Baumbach is very subtle in his comedy. And I think it was a great combination of those two writing that movie. And yeah, I agree that movie blew me away as well. Because the thing is I don't want to talk about the plot of the movie.
Why not?
I mean, I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, people who are listening to this have probably seen it.
Yeah, I mean, we can give it a little. I mean, essentially, it's about Barbie, and
Otherwise, we don't talk very long.
Something is happening with her in her Barbie land, and she has to go on a quest to the real world to find out why the person who is playing with her is sad, because the person is transferring her emotions into the doll and therefore into Barbie.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's essentially the plot. But I have to say, like you said,
but also not really.
I mean, not really. But I have to say the fact that Greta Gerwig directed the movie and the fact that it's a Barbie movie. Sure, it's a fucking movie about feminism. I mean,
of course
if you go into that movie and think it's not, then I'm sorry, you're stupid. Stupid, naive. I would say naive.
But you also have to give some people the credit that you, as a film buff and somebody who like knows directors, someone can say a director and you can say, oh, they did this movie, that movie.
Sure.
Not everybody's like that.
But I think
so. It's also, you kind of have to give people that.
Sure.
Too.
No, sure, but
if you don't know who Greta Gerwig is.
But if you just take it from a female director, almost a female cast, like there are a few male people on it, and it's a female-driven story.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it's about feminism.
It's great.
And the fact that they managed to transport it in the trailer where it didn't really shine through as much is amazing, because therefore so many more people went to the cinema, and I hope that so many more people saw that amazing movie and liked it as well, because it's a very, very good and I think also important movie. But
the thing that I loved so much about it is that, I mean, I loved everything about it, but it's a very feminist driven movie, and like story and plot and all of that, but it's done in such a way that I feel like is so tactful and so it's not as in your face as it could be. You know, it could be, I mean, it's in your face. It's very obvious that that's what it is, but it's not like so pushy towards it. It's just fact-based. It's just this, from a woman's perspective, this is how the fucking world works. And you see it from both sides. I mean, when Ken is in the real world, you see how he realizes, oh, in this world, men rule everything. And he kind of likes that and tries to bring it back to Barbie land. And it's this whole, it's a really, really interesting take on it. And it's so real. It's so real to the point where, I mean, the thing that stands out to be the most in that movie was America Ferrera's monologue. I don't know, an hour in maybe. Yeah, something like that. Holy moly. Yeah. That moment, I cried and I nearly started cheering when she was done. It was the most powerful speech I think I've ever heard in terms of just like, this is what it is to be a woman in this time. And it's fucking incredible. The movie also does a very good job of being self-aware. There are so many jokes and so many moments where the movie knows that it's a movie, and the movie also knows that the things that they show are not necessarily super serious, which I really liked, because that made the movie way more real in terms of the message and in terms of what it wanted to say. And you also could see that the writer of the movie really, really burns for it. You could totally feel that all the way through, and I really, really like that. It's funny because it's a very, I mean, it's a studio movie, and it's funny that movie got made like that. Especially in the culture where still men basically rule the world everywhere, and it's very refreshing to see a movie like that. Sure, there are not that many male actors or male characters in it, but those who are in it are still fun, and I think that movie has everything for everybody. There's something for everybody in there. And what I also really liked was the musical numbers. I mean, Ryan there
Gosling.
weren't so many, so it wasn't like
it was not a musical.
Too musically.
No, it was not.
But
there were
fit
some
for Barbie. I mean, there definitely needed to be something in there.
The Ken song, so good. Ryan Gosling singing. I mean, Ryan Gosling in general was amazing as Ken. I mean, he was kind of a side character. He had his own arc. He had his own story, but he was still a side character, and Oh man, he was so fucking good. And also, what's his name?
Will Ferrell?
No, not Phil. I mean him as well. But the one Ken. It's not Ken. The one other doll, male doll. Alan. But what is the actor's name?
Michael Cera.
Michael Cera. Oh man.
And the fun thing about it is that, you know, as you're watching it, they're introducing all these different Barbies and Kens and different like friends of Barbie and Ken, and they all actually existed as dolls.
Yeah, sure.
And it's so funny because some of them are just so outrageously weird.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's funny that, I mean, obviously Mattel wanted to showcase their products a little bit, and so, but it was funny because there were a lot of cool cameos from different Barbies and Kens, and yeah, it was definitely a worthwhile, especially if you're a Barbie fan, like in general, if you had like the dolls, if you knew a little bit about the world and everything.
And also Kate McKinnon.
Oh, Kate
her
McKinnon's character.
Oh my.
Yeah, that was amazing.
So fantastic. Weird Barbie, yeah. So funny.
I just wanted to say that in the first weekend, the movie Barbie grossed $155 million, so domestically, just on U.S. soil alone, which is a record for a woman directing movie. And it earned almost 500 million. Almost. I think at this point it did already, but it's crazy how Barbie just skyrocketed. Yeah. And it left Oppenheimer in its dust.
So crazy.
Compared to Oppenheimer is like half of that, which is still an amazing sum. But yeah, Barbie. And I get it. Oppenheimer is R-rated. Oppenheimer is not like a movie that kids could technically watch, and Barbie is, I think it's PG something, or I don't know. It's at least for younger generations as well, so it kind of made sense that it makes more. Sure.
I just wanted to read because I find it hilarious, because as soon as like you understood what the theme, the central theme was of the movie. I was like so excited for the 1-star reviews from Angry Men.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
And some of them are just really good. I haven't really picked any out specifically, but I'm just gonna pick a random one. 1 out of 10. Life in plastic. It's not fantastic. Very clever.
Wow.
Very clever. Wait, there's too much. Toxic messaging aside, there isn't much noteworthy about the film apart from the impressive production design, which brings the pink world of Barbie to life and turns the dolls' popular accessories into full-size functioning objects. That's nice. He said everyone is basically forgettable in the movie.
Sure.
Okay, that's not a good example. Wait.
Yeah, that's the weird. I mean, I get the that's why the marketing was so broad to attract like a lot of people, and so obviously people who are like especially toxic male people, or the toxic masculine people are sure they're offended when seeing that movie.
I'm a good one.
Yeah.
1 out of 10. Don't believe the hype. One of the worst movies I've seen in a while, period. But since this site requires more than just that sentence, I shall go into further detail to save you some money. 1, there is no plot line, and if there was one, it got lost in the garbage heap this movie is. There is no logic or reason behind anything, which then he clearly missed it. Mm-hmm. 2, moral of the story from what I gathered. Men make the world a horrible place, and if I had a shot every time I heard the word patriarchy muttered throughout this movie, I would be able to fall asleep. 3, I can almost seen the embarrassment behind Ryan Gosling's eyes for playing the role of Ken, because that is what it was. It is an embarrassment. Between acting like an idiot and then some random dance numbers, it made me wonder what kind of drug he was on to agree to this.
Oh boy, that's exactly what I'm saying.
That's funny.
Yeah. a lot of people call it preachy. A lot of people call it another woke example for feminism and stuff like that. And I say, in all sincerity, go fuck yourself with that opinion. No, I'm serious.
Yeah, I agree.
Simply because there are not that many movies that do that, and
Right.
especially big movies like that.
Right.
And imagine just the message is essentially, and it's a comedy, so they over exaggerate, man rule the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, oh yeah, man destroy the world and blah blah. No, it's not the message. Man rule the world. That's the message.
But
that's simply the
it's
message.
also fact.
And that's a fact. Right. And just imagine your little girl, like your little daughter, watching that movie and seeing that, oh, I have a shot. I can be anything.
Also, how many movies is the cast, the majority of the cast women? I mean, how
women
fucking
talking.
cool is that?
Women talking.
Yeah. It's another Greta Gerwig.
It's another good example.
It's not Greta Gerwig.
No, it's not Greta Gerwig. But I think those movies are important, and there are not that many. And if you're super easily offended because your toxic masculinity or your pride, and I'm doing that on the quotes, your pride is hurt by a movie, by a fucking movie, then maybe you should rethink your priorities.
Exactly.
Because,
if you're feeling offended by that movie,
right,
then that says more about you than it does the movie.
The movie has nothing to do about that. It's about your views upon the world. And yeah, let's not go into that.
What I was just going to add is that something I also found really refreshing about it is that, Barbie was... when I was a kid, obviously, I loved Barbies. I had so many Barbies. I had Dream House. I loved it. I could play with Barbies all day long.
Yeah. And
I was also the kid who cut their hair and expected it to grow back, and it didn't. So I had weird Barbie. But
everybody did.
Yeah. But there's also the other side of Barbie, because there's the one side of Barbie where Barbie can be anything. That was their whole thing. And they came out with all these Barbies who have all these different jobs. And it was super exciting as a little girl to see, oh, this doll as a woman has so many jobs. She's a construction worker, all these jobs that are quote, men jobs.
Yeah, yeah.
And as a kid, I think that has a really big effect on you, even when you don't realize it in that moment. But Barbie also created this ideal of, this really unattainable ideal of what a woman is in terms of how she looks, because her proportions were obnoxiously...
And they talked about that too in the movie.
But that's what I was going to say. I think it's so cool that they addressed that.
Yeah.
And they brought up that as such a big point in the movie.
Yeah.
Barbie made people feel really good, but it also made people feel really shitty.
Yeah.
And I love that they addressed that and didn't just make Barbie ooh, Barbie, they did it was just really
and also
cool.
in the Barbie world itself, there were actors who were bigger, and I pointed it out because I was looking for that as well, because I think that's also, and I would have been very surprised if there would have not been a bigger Barbie, but there was, and obviously there was, because women they try to represent everybody, no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should go over to Oppenheimer now.
Yes. But before we do, just go see Barbie. Go see it. It's amazing.
It's
really, also hilarious. Really, it's not just that, that message is very central, but it's hilarious. It's funny. It is powerful. It's just great.
Yeah, it's a
so
great movie.
Good.
It's a very good movie. We are in for a treat this year with movies in the summer.
Yeah.
Okay, Oppenheimer. We saw Oppenheimer a couple of days later in IMAX format. Sadly, only digital IMAX, because we don't have a analog IMAX here in Austria. But yeah, it was still pretty impressive in terms of size and quality, even though some of the shots were not focused. They were not, they were blurry. Some of the close-ups, which bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, only you noticed.
But no, not only me. I talked to Dinko and he noticed too.
He's also the same thing as you. So.
Yeah. But yeah, Oppenheimer. So Oppenheimer is obviously about, is it Richard Oppenheimer?
Robert.
Robert. Oh yeah, Robert. J. Robert Oppenheimer.
I think Robert J.
No, it's J. Robert,
Really?
actually, yeah.
Okay.
The inventor of the nuclear bomb, and yeah, a pretty big figure in recent history, I would say. I mean, he died almost like, I think 68, 69, something like that. So not that long ago, and he changed the world forever. Some would argue.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody should argue, I think. And yeah, it's Christopher Nolan. I mean, what else can you say? It's a fucking massive blockbuster movie made by Christopher Nolan, who is arguably one of the biggest and best directors right now.
Yeah.
In terms of scale, in terms of what he does, and shot all on IMAX, which is also crazy. That's something people usually don't do because it's so expensive, and the camera itself is so fucking huge. Yeah, and I don't want to. I mean, it's a biopic. You can basically either read the book that it's based on, or just watch a YouTube video and find out what he did in his lifetime or what he didn't do. I don't want to go into that, but I want to just praise quickly the actors, the ensemble.
Amazing.
Like Cillian Murphy just fucking killed it.
Brilliant.
I watched some interviews with the real Oppenheimer first, and that guy just nails it.
Yeah.
He just nails it. The everything, how he talks, how he moves, how he just his whole persona he turned into Oppenheimer, and yeah, and then Robert Downey Jr. Amazing. The whole
It was
fucking
really
cast.
cool to see him in that role because, you know, and he talked about that in an interview, but he's used to, even when he's in kind of a more dramatic role, he's still comedic. He's still kind of like the comedic relief a lot, where he's silly and he's, you know,
He's
which I think is
not
very much his personality. He very much plays himself to an extent. But it was really cool to see him in a role that's completely different from what he normally does.
Thankfully, he looks a little bit different. They put a lot of time and effort into his looks, and it takes away a little bit from him, because otherwise you would expect it a little bit from him. But yeah, he technically plays the antagonist in the movie, which is not really true. It's not really true because it's not revealed until the end, kinda, and.
But still the antagonist. You think he's a...
Yeah, yes and no. The thing is, he's not an antagonist that you really hate. The thing is, you hate
the end,
you hate the system behind it, because he is part of the system, and you hate the system, but you don't really hate him.
Yeah.
So that's also already a bigger beef I have with the movie, because and I thought about it a couple of days now, and the biggest thing that's missing for me is the emotional aspect of the whole thing.
You didn't feel the emotional aspect?
Two scenes.
I felt it like almost the entire time.
No, I did not, and I don't know why, but maybe I expected something else, but it was very dry and cold, and I get it why it's a biopic, and I get I read a little bit about the book that it's based on. The book is just like this happened, this happened, done. It's not about his world really. It's his perspective. It's how he viewed the whole thing, but it's not. That's it.
I feel completely the opposite. I felt the emotion almost the majority of the film. Like, there were moments where it was just, okay, he's doing this right now, or he's working with these students, or he's, you know, working with these people, and then you don't feel it as much. But the big portion of the movie takes place in like not really a trial, but a hearing. Let's call it a hearing.
That's
where he's recalling events of how they happened, and that's basically how the story is told. And it's in those moments, I felt it so much. You feel so much emotion. You feel so much tension. You feel so much frustration with what is happening and how it's happening. Yeah. And the fact that shit still happens today.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but that's the emotion in the movie.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the emotional impact of what happened and what he did. That's what I'm talking about.
But that's also not what it's about.
I know it's not, but it should be, I think. It should be more, because there are two scenes. First of all, the scene that the speech he gives after the bomb dropped.
That was amazing.
That scene was, to me, that was the best scene in the movie. And then the last minutes. When they basically, when it was revealed what he said to Einstein, that fucking dropped the needle for me, those moments were so rare. And if you look back on Christopher Nolan movies, he knows how to fucking convey those things. He knows how to make even the smallest little stories or the things that you feel like, okay, how can you make that emotional? He knows how to do that.
Yeah.
And he didn't do that in that movie. And I get why, because it's a biopic. It's about this guy who did that.
Yeah.
That's all. And obviously the aftermath of they fucked him afterwards.
Yeah.
Done. That's it.
The thing is, though, I feel like this I typically don't love movies that are that long. It's a 3-hour movie. And I typically don't love movies that are that long because most of the time there are things that don't need to be in there or that are too long in there that are just, why are they part of this movie? It could have been shorter and had a better effect. This movie, however, along with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, those are two movies where every single scene for me is like, you need this in the movie. You need all of that. And it all feels so relevant and so perfect to the story that you can't then also add the aspect that you were hoping to have in the movie without making it a 4-hour long movie.
Nah, I
because
disagree.
You can't briefly you simply can't briefly talk about the aftermath.
Yeah, no, I disagree.
Really...
I agree, but I also disagree, because I think if you would have made it a more emotional story, then you would have needed to change the whole movie.
Yeah, but that's not my point is that's not what he was going for.
No,
so
I know.
If you wanted to add that to it would have to be a completely different movie.
I totally agree. I think, and I looked back on his filmography, I think since, and it's funny because I honestly believe that since his brother is not part of his movie writing anymore, I think he and his brother were the perfect combination of writing a very very emotional and grounded in human experience movies.
Yeah.
The Inception is the exception. Funny. Inception is the exception to that because he wrote that alone, but all the other movies that are highly praised and that people love are written with Jonathan. And Dunkirk, for example, was also not written with him. It was also, and a lot of people didn't like Dunkirk. I, for example, liked it. I didn't like it as much as, for example, Interstellar. But yeah, the problem, I think I just went into it with. I knew already that it was not a Nolan-esque movie. The only Nolan-esque thing about the whole thing is how it's told and those different storylines and how timelines and how they intervene and how it was just cut together. That's the only Nolan-esque thing. Other than that, it's a biopic. It's a simple biopic. The scale is insane and how they did things, and there's no CG in it, which just blows my mind. But I think going into the movie, I was expecting more of an emotional impact because it's that guy basically changed the world, and he did it with a simple dropping. Now, he didn't drop the bomb, but with a simple invention. Yeah. And it's not simple because it's a weapon of mass destruction.
It was also extremely complex to.
Yeah, sure, obviously, but it's the one thing, and they dropped it, and that's it. Yeah. And that's the beef I have with the movie. I wished there would be more of what does it mean to the world, because there were two moments. Yeah. It was his perspective, what he finally realized what he did, and then at the end when it got revealed what he said to Einstein, then it basically was like, okay, and this happened then, or that could happen, something like that along the lines, and that was it. And to me, I don't know. Maybe I'm just super.
The thing is, I agree that would have been also really fascinating to have that aspect in it. But I also went in with zero expectations of what it was going to be about and what was going to happen in the movie. And so for what it was, for the story that he told, I think it's a fucking masterpiece. It is I thought it was brilliant. I was captivated the entire time watching it. There was not a moment where I was like, I'm bored or I don't want to watch it anymore. I was so captivated the whole time. But I also love anything that like courtroom drama. I love stuff like that, or anything that has to do with some sort of trial or hearing. Like,
it was not a trial.
No, I know it's hearing though.
No, it was a predetermined hearing. It was not even that thrilling to me. I don't know.
I'm not saying it was thrilling to watch that, but I was so drawn into it. I'm really drawn into things like that, and I was really, really drawn in the whole time.
I don't know. It's funny because I like reading about it, and a lot of people praised it and said, "Oh yeah, it's easily one of Nolan's best movies." I honestly completely disagree. I think it's one of his not worst, because he doesn't have a bad movie, but I think it's one of his not the good. It's like not the better ones, and I don't know. I'd rather watch Interstellar 10,000 more times than I'd watch Oppenheimer again.
It's so crazy. I totally disagree.
I will watch Oppenheimer again just to maybe get a different perspective on it. But like Interstellar, for example, is still for me one of his best movies. But it's just the fact, and it's only because the relationship between the father and the daughter. That's all there is to me, and that's all I needed in that movie. And that movie was so beautiful because of that. And those scenes, like at the end when they met again and she was old and laying in her deathbed, just thinking about it just makes me emotional, yeah? And that is the Nolan I know, and that is the Nolan he can be. And then watching Oppenheimer, and I went out of them, I was like, yeah.
But you also
I feel nothing, I feel nothing.
But you also have to... It's the same. Okay, I'll make the connection this way. It's the same as when you have like a musical artist that you really love, right? And they come out with something and you love their music, you adore their music, and then they come out with something that's completely different than what they normally do. And you're like, I don't really like it. But then it's not for you.
I think that's different though.
It's not different. How is it different? Movie directors, writers, they're artists just the way that musicians are artists.
No, I agree.
And if they want to branch out and do something a little bit different, it still feels like Nolan's style to me. Like I've still felt that it was his movie, but it did feel very different than his other films.
I totally agree. I agree with that aspect. Yeah.
I think that's maybe you just need to. I think maybe you went into it with the expectation of it being this is a Nolan film, and this is a film about Oppenheimer. I think maybe that was where the disconnect was a little, because you're expecting certain things out of a Nolan film.
I was expecting to be moved. Yeah. That was the thing. I was expecting to be moved. I got the Nolan thing. I got what I want from Nolan, like amazing cinematography, the editing. Even though the music, I'm not a super fan. I just want him to go back to simmer. But
again, that goes back to he wanted a different.
Tenet was also good in terms of music. Tenet was also good in terms of music.
But he clearly wanted a different vibe for this movie and a different.
It works.
He wanted you to hit
it
differently.
Totally works.
It totally works.
It totally works. But I think that. Zimmer would have gotten maybe more emotional impacts out of the whole thing. I think so, but that's just my opinion. But I was the thing that I wanted from it. I wanted to be moved in any way or form, and I was not at all. I was a little in the two scenes that I mentioned, but that's it. And that was too little for me in a movie like that. Like even Asteroid City moved me more. And Asteroid City was like it's a Wes Anderson movie. It's just beautiful pictures, a fun ensemble, and a fun story.
He always moves. I mean, every movie I've seen of his, it's a very moving story.
It's still Wes Anderson. It's Wes Anderson, and he does it in a way, I don't want to compare those two actors because they're completely different. But Asteroid City is also very dry. It's a super dry movie.
Yeah.
But he had some scenes that moved me. That completely moved me. And
But again, I don't think that was the purpose of the film.
No, it was not.
I think it was more
not,
meant
obviously.
to be tense than moving, and I think it achieved that for sure.
It was not, sure. But I don't want to call myself a storyteller because it sounds so stupid. Yeah, it sounds stupid. I don't want to say that. But as someone who tries to not even remotely do what they do. But tries to also tell stories. I mean, we do that right now, you know. You want to touch people. You want to at least get get them to somehow relate to what's happening or to the character, and then I never got that in any extent, because also the movie throws you in, doesn't give you any backstory, anything, and anybody.
I liked that about it.
I mean, I liked it too, because it's not you need everything, but the emotional disconnect between you, I didn't give a shit about Oppenheimer in any way or form, and also because, and that's exactly what I'm saying, you never got really a view of his inner world. In all the books and everything that you can read about him, he's like this humanizer.
That's true. You did get glimpses into who he was.
Yeah, but glimpses for a main character, I think, in a 3-hour movie, at least to me, that's not enough. I get like an emotional connection to that person.
But I don't agree with that, because I had a very emotional connection with him, and I think there wasn't a lot of glimpse into his, like, who he was, but really, there was enough where I felt like, okay, I get who this person is, because there was a lot when he was younger. There was a lot when he was, you know, his kind of relationship with Florence, which, by the way, can we just say Florence deserves a fucking Oscar, even though she was in the movie for like 15 minutes. Holy fuck.
Not Florence.
She carried
wife.
Yeah, she was fantastic too, but I felt like the scenes with Florence were so fucking powerful.
Yeah, I don't know.
She is a powerhouse.
I liked her character in the movie.
I thought she was a powerhouse.
And I also those scenes were very good, and probably one of the better ones in the whole movie. But
she just like owns the room.
I mean, she does,
she's on camera.
She does in everything. But Emily Blunt,
she was phenomenal.
She was, I think, the best actress in the whole movie in terms of carrying emotion. She had the biggest scale of emotions. Yeah. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. was always angry. He was always just angry, and he played it super well. And the guy just, I hope he gets nominated, because he played phenomenal. And Cillian Murphy, he just played the one character from start to finish, and he did it so fucking well. But Emily Blunt, we had the scene where she basically had to sit through the hearing. And she got told, like, martyred again, like her Oppenheimer got martyred again for sleeping with another woman, and she had to hear it again in front of so many people. That was a really good scene, and she just fucking nailed that scene. And at the end, where she tells him, or she doesn't shake his hand, and just the close up of her face. Wait, that woman is... She's great. Wait, Emily Blunt, just amazing. Like, that woman, I mean, the whole ensemble, there's no bad actor. Matt Damon, I mean,
but then you did feel more emotion than just the two scenes, because then all of those scenes with Emily Blunt, you felt emotion?
I mean, sure I did, but the thing is, you know... I get what the movie is. I get what the movie wants to be, and I get what Nolan wanted. And
I think he achieved it.
I totally agree. But I think the movie would have been so much better and would have so much more resonated with people if you would have seen the horrible things they did with the bomb. And not... I mean, I get why they didn't show it, because they didn't want to use CG. That was a whole part. I don't want to use CG. I don't want to blah, blah. And they needed to do that if they would have shown that. But only saying it and not even hearing anything. The only thing you heard was the radio thing. The bomb was dropped. And then the facts. Yeah, so many people died. That many people died. That many people died. That's it. Not seeing anything. And that, for me, I was missing that. I was missing the impact of what happened. It was just facts. Yeah. And to me, that for a movie, that scale and that, and like, the message is so important in the movie. That was missing. That was completely missing, because so many people died after, and the impact of even the Cold War. Sure, there was glimpses, and they were talking about it, and they were like, and Oppenheimer was basically predicting everything that happened afterwards, but that's it. And to me, that was not enough in terms of, I don't know, that's just my opinion. But the thing is, I read a lot of reviews, and people who also rate the movie a little lower, not like bad or anything, also share the same opinion. And I talked to Dinko, and he said 100%. He walked out of the cinema and said, I was missing the emotional component of the whole story. And yeah, it took me a while to realize what I was missing. But it's still a phenomenal movie.
It's a masterpiece.
And it's funny that like the Barbenheimer thing, the meme that they also carry it and they'll also push it a little bit. It's really cool to see. But I have to say, I would never, ever recommend watching those two movies back to back.
No.
Don't do that.
No.
Only because it's a fucking meme. Don't fucking do it. It's so that those two movies are so completely opposite.
Yeah.
And I think if you would watch them back to back, you would hate one or the other. Or at least
I don't think
not
so,
enjoy
but I feel like it's just
two.
They're two different, and it would very highly depend on the order that you watch them.
Nah.
Because
just don't.
if you, like, it goes both ways. If you watch Barbie first, you're kind of on this high afterwards. You're like, fuck yeah. And then you watch Oppenheimer and you're a little bit depressed afterwards because it is heavy. It's a heavy movie.
And it's also slower and partly it's black and white. It's just so different.
And then if you watch it the other way around and you watch Oppenheimer first, you're going into this super empowering, crazy, funny movie afterwards with kind of this like feeling of fuck.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not a good combination.
No, it's not. It's not.
Anyways, I think we should stop now. It's long.
Yeah, Barbenheimer. Great movies for the summer, along with Mission Impossible, the new one, and
Mission Impossible was great.
Yeah, we got some great movies this summer. Please subscribe if you like what you hear. Please rate us on Apple Podcast if you have not done that. And if you want to support us more, head over to our Patreon where Joe is still waiting.
Hey, Joe.
And that's it.
Watch out for deer.